All right. Had to make two decisions there, and those decisions were done. So recording has started. Back over here to the screen. Today's monthly meeting will focus on team dynamics, that's what TDX stands for there, in practice of a very pragmatic view of how two different project managers use team dynamics. Some demos, some use cases, possibly some real world scenarios. We are capturing, you are going to get to see project dashboards from two different universities and project details. So I I will acknowledge I did hit record. If someone accidentally shows something that they don't mean to show, then either presenter will just, flag us. I happen to be one of them, Jeremy the other, and then we'll just make a decision not to post that to YouTube so we don't get accused of airing our university's dirty laundry if that's the case. So Jeremy and I will sync up and make sure we're both okay with posting this to YouTube. If we are, we'll post it. The announcement will go out like it always does. Next thing, session agenda. So committee updates real quick. Annual conference proposals are due April 7th. So if you're interested in presenting at Educause's annual conference, which I believe is the last week of September, um, take note of that date and put together your proposal. And I want to thank, as always, I would be remiss if I didn't thank the steering committee volunteers for their hard work and effort. There's a lot of energy gets put into planning these meetings and looking forward and trying to keep us ahead of our schedule, if you will. So we're not planning at the last minute and totally love working with the crew. It's an awesome group to work with. So um, I'm honored to work alongside them. Session, we're going to spend about 40 minutes if I haven't wasted too much time during this intro. These are the two presenters, myself, Enterprise Senior Project Manager at Kansas State University, as well as Jeremy Reed, IT Service Portfolio Manager from Michigan State University. And then we'll spend the last 20 minutes with any QAs that people have for either one of us. All right. Um, I'm kind of a casual presenter, especially on these pragmatic ones. So this is me communicating directly with Jeremy live in front of this live studio audience, if you will. I know the order says Ed and then Jeremy, but Jeremy, if you wanted to go first, I'm happy to give you the wheel. Just let me know.
That works for me.
Perfect. All righty. So I will stop sharing after I make sure that I've covered myself. Yep. Cool. All righty. And you should be co-host. We've already tested that beforehand, so take her away.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jeremy Reed. I am, sorry, I'm not sharing yet. I am the Service and Portfolio Project or Service and Portfolio Manager at MSU in the IT department. We've been using TDX for a while now. I'm going to walk you through our experience. I want to emphasize that this is the Michigan State University experience, and we made decisions based on our organization. The decisions your organization makes should be based on how your organization operates. Just to give you some background, because I'm going to kind of tell you why we did things the way we did things. We were using CA, which is now Clarity PPM, until about 2021. Then they jumped their prices up substantially, and we started looking for new vendors. We landed on TDX. We started with adding their service desk in 2022, and then we turned on PPM in 2023, and we configured that the way we wanted to. However, there were some things going on in between there. One of the things is our IT department. We had about 12 project managers and 3 BAs in 2021 when we were on CA. During that period where we didn't have a PPM tool, and we were sort of making do, our PMO was split. It was decided that there would be an enterprise project management office created. So another department took 9 of our project managers, left us with just 3 PMs. So as we were configuring TDX, we made the determination that to have a tool for 3 people doesn't make sense. So we wanted to democratize the use of TDX and make it available for the entire department. So the idea was we'll have projects the PMs manage, but for the most part, we're doing departmental projects that are going to have to be managed by team leads and other people in the department. So we wanted to create a tool that was flexible and simple enough to do that. So the IT PMO was left with 3 PMs and 3 BAs, and our overall TDX user community in IT was 400 in central IT and another 225 in our federated areas. So we have a lot of potential users of the tool. So some of our goals, drivers, guiding principles. We wanted to allow for others to utilize PPM. We wanted our projects to be visible. We wanted to see what was going on so that executives could get reporting and make decisions about what's going on in their organization. We wanted to mature project management in the organization. So with only 3 PMs in our formal PMO, we needed to improve the practice across the organization. We decided to make our workflows simple and make the activities that project managers needed to perform very simple. We wanted to do things in baby steps. So we didn't start step 5 before we did step 1. We want to take this one step at a time to make sure that it's digestible for the organization and we can roll it out. We right-sized the project management framework, again, keeping it as straightforward as possible so it wasn't too complex for new to project management people to use. And we wanted to demonstrate value over time, which we've been doing. And we wanted to get to the ultimate place is data-driven decision making. That's where we're all headed, right? Um, our intake process. So right now we use iPass. We use a TDX form, not an iPass form, and we use iPass to throw it into TDX. But we have a simple request form, which means we don't use TDX project request process and managed request all the way through until the project's done. We have a different form that we use um, to take in the project requests, and it's a better process and flow and allows us to do something that I like, which is auto creating our projects. So right here, just to show you, we created a straightforward form with name, objective, description. There's start and end date. We have some internal attributes about who's going to lead the project. Functional lead is important. That's the project manager. That's the person who gets notified when the project goes through, and they're the one expected to run the project. They'll be assigned as project manager in TDX. We identify service impacted, service owner, and the sponsor. And then we have a few things for the portfolio management office if projects are more complex. So for example, if it's a future planning activity next fiscal year, something like that, if they say yes to this, this is the only scenario where the project is not automatically created. It comes to my team and we add it to the roadmap for future projects for the next fiscal year. And then there's other places where people can get stuck on their projects. So we ask them to identify, hey, do you need additional funding? Describe why. If they say yes to any of these things, similarly with other staff participation, more resources, or an architecture review, if they say yes to these, then my team will follow up. Project's still created. We just follow up with them to make sure they know what they're doing and they get the engagement, participation, and solutions they need from those other areas. And then once they submit the project request, the project is auto-created except for the situation where they said it's a future planning activity. Then once it's created, it'll land in TDX as one of their projects. Uh, so that's our request form, pretty simple and straightforward. Um, and then the project management process. So again, the way we set it up is anyone in the IT department can create and manage a project. So just to demonstrate for you some of the things we have in TDX, the first thing I'll show you is this is our knowledge base. So someone can come to the knowledge base. They can type in project here, and it'll pull up knowledge base articles based on project management. And then they can go into a knowledge base article and get information about it. We were using this till a few weeks ago, and it's still very successful for us. However, a few weeks ago, we did get some Google AI improvements, and we now have Notebook LM and the ability to create Google Gems. And so one of the first gems we created was to query the TDX database, or query the TDX knowledge base. And that allows users to use this TDX helper to just say, where's the project request form? And it tells them where the form is. Give me the link to the request form. It gives them the link to the request form. What does yellow, red, and green mean on a project status? And it gives them the answers to that along with a little table. So we like this gem because it allows people to ask directly what they're looking for rather than go to the knowledge base and have to look in 5 or 6 different places to scroll through a document to find what they're looking for. So that's one tool that we have there in the knowledge base. And again, we have the articles, they're available. The other thing is status reports. So we have project status reports, and these are the best I've ever used. They take 5 or 10 minutes to create. For your weekly or monthly status report, we require them monthly. But this is what a status report looks like coming out of TDX. So here at the top, you have the basic information about the project, the attributes that are useful to understand what's going on. Then we've got the update, the summary, and then you can see the activity, this period, next period. And again, we created templates for this. So all these headers you see here are created in a template. And people can just come in and put their bullet points in the template. And then down at the bottom, there's, risks and issues if you want to add that, and, who gets notified on that. And basically, when you update the project, it automatically sends out the status report. So you don't have to worry about emailing it to a bunch of people. That gets done when you update the status on the project. So just to demo that functionality. So I'll come into this project here, and you can see when I come into the project in the project details, the last status is the first thing you see. And then I can update the project from here. One of the things I like to do, though, is I can pull my last update in. And then when I go into the project update, I can just paste it in and then just change the status from last time versus rewriting the whole thing. The other thing we have here is we have templates for your updates. So in our IT department, we have a large project update, and then we have a standard update for small projects too. So when you're in the status, we don't ask for much. So what's your status? Are you not started in process on hold? Red, green, yellow, and I showed you the rubric for that in the knowledge base, and then percent complete. Then you can do your update with the comments, again, pulling templates. And then the notification, all you have to do is click this and it'll pull all your stakeholders and all your resources on the project. Stakeholders plus resources in TDX equals contacts. That's what this button is your contacts. Then you can remove people if you want to. You can add other people if you want to. And once you click save, it automatically emails that status report. So that's how the status reports work. And then I'll just give you a quick overview of how we manage the projects. So going back to my project here. This here on the left, these are called your sections and your components of the project. And you have some flexibility for modifying these or changing them, removing them, or adding other ones. But not as much as you'd like. So there's some things that TDX puts in there and they can't go away, and there's some things that you can make go away. So just to run through these quickly, the general section here is when you can make updates to attributes on your project. So this has the attributes that came from the request form, other information. We track information if we're doing a stewardship and sustainability project is what we call them. Basically operational excellence or efficiency. We have expected results and expected savings, realized benefits and realized savings. So we can track information here. And then in the advanced section, we have other attributes here, like what portfolio it's in, if it's a part of a program. So we can do program specific reporting. We have that there. We're playing around with this classification attribute to flag stewardship and sustainability or renewals and refreshes. So we have flexibility there to add attributes to help us filter for our reporting if we want to do that. And again, just as a for example here, we are not using time and expenses right now at all, but we can't hide it. We can't make it go away. That's one of the downsides of the tool. Settings is where you can set up the look and feel of things. I talked about the sections and components. This is where you can add those sections and components. You can check and uncheck things to add them and remove them. We've played around with this a little bit. The only downside is not all of these sections and components do what you think they're going to do. For example, goals, we thought it'd be interesting, fun, neat to have goals for the project, but it's not like that. It's goals for the organization, so they have to be added at the beginning. So we use these on a limited basis. But baselines are here if you want to do baselines on your project. A briefcase is here if you want to store documents. Calendar feeds, there's the regular feed. Again, I don't think we can hide some of the stuff. We don't necessarily need to see it. Issues is very robust. You can create an issue. There's a ton of attributes you can put on there. You can assign it to people, give it a start and finish date, notify people what's going on with it, a percent complete. And risks are very similar in that regard. Milestones you can have if you have a plan in there, you can pull milestones out of it. Plans can be done similar to Teams Planner. You can do card wall plans and waterfall plans. So you can add a plan, give it a description, and you can have multiple plans on a project as well. You have multiple types. So if you're doing swim lanes, you could have a separate plan for each swim lane. Resources, these are the people working on the project that you're assigning to the project. The nice thing is you can assign alternate managers. Those are people that can do updates to the project when the manager's unavailable. So they have access to the tool to make any of the updates that the manager would. Again, risks similar to issues. Stakeholders, these are people assigned or associated with the project that have an interest but aren't resources on the project. Your resources plus your stakeholders equals your contacts, which is what I showed you up at the top. When you update, the notification goes out to those contacts. So that is the overview of the tool. And again, that was quick. If anyone wants any help with that, wants to learn more about it, wants to see any more detail, I know Ed's going to get into some of the detail behind things, but I'm always available. If you want to reach out, I can schedule some time to walk through it with you in a little more detail. Service portfolio and service catalog. So when we started up with TDX, we were using legacy data from CA PPM. And at that time, we had over 600 services. So when TDX was stood up, we had 600 services in the tool, which was a lot. And it was a mess and it was difficult to manage. And our services didn't really align to what we did. So in 2024, leadership broke our service portfolio down. We used the Educause model. So that goes service category, service. We broke things down similar to that. We call them Educause category, and service. But we have that three-tiered structure. And in that tier, we came up with 150 services. We just wrapped up at the beginning of the year a project to rationalize things. So now in TDX, we have the same services in the catalog or in the portfolio with very few exceptions. So our services are now aligned, and we can start to reap the benefits of that alignment as we move forward. So just to give you a quick look at our service catalog and our service portfolio. So here in the client portal under services, Again, this may be familiar to a lot of you who use the Educause portfolio, but we have the admin and business. Then you see we have something like financial and procurement systems, and then budget systems, enterprise financial systems, unit financial systems. Um, so that's how we've kind of broken things down. HR systems, you'd see HR systems and HR systems admin. Um, Jump back and go to something a little more interesting. Infrastructure, um, network and connectivity management. So we've got several things here um, associated with that. So these are the services within the network and connectivity management category. So that's what our service catalog looks like. Again, the big thing there is just getting alignment with the portfolio. So our services um, are our services, the things that we truly do. Um, and then project portfolio reporting. This is my favorite part of team dynamics. So I'm going to show you
And
our
Jeremy, just a quick,
dashboard.
I'm going to
Yep.
jump in during that brief pause just to give you time. We got about 3 minutes.
Okay. So we have our portfolio dashboard, and this is our overall dashboard. So you can see here, we have our top projects, which we're still getting settled. Right now, there's 41. We want to have that to be 10 to 20. We have our top projects by department, our top projects by health. And then similarly, we have department projects. This isn't mature yet. We're still working on that, but we have the dashboard set up for that. And then our other department projects. We have here, these are the tier 3 things that are best effort to get done. And then we've got dashboards recently completed, newly started projects, then just some graphs by department, by health, by status. And then here's all our active IT projects. And these are our enterprise projects because they exist in a separate portfolio. So we've pulled them in. Next thing we have to work on is some alignment for things that are priority in both portfolios. We want to be able to flag those. Um, Other pieces here in the dashboard is we have specific programs. So there's program dashboards. So what's active in the IAM program, what's upcoming, what's completed, what's canceled. So we have program dashboards. And then for each of the executives, we have project dashboards for them. So here's our educational technology projects. They have 21 total projects. And the analysis tab in the reporting in TDX basically allows you to have every attribute on a project as a column, and every attribute on the project is filterable here at the top. And I've just got some standard filters here on this particular report. So everyone has access to this. Everyone in IT has access to these reports, and they can come look at the reports and dashboards. And then to create them in TDX, um, you just use this analysis tab here, and then you can see all of my reports are over here. Um, and that's where they're created. And then I can share them, but I can edit them here too. See, it's just easy to add columns um, and to add filters to your report. So pretty basic. And then down here, you can create the pie charts and things like that. So pretty simple to use. I'm not very technical and figured it out. So um, really easy. And then just pros and cons real quickly. The project status reports, the analysis reports and dashboards that I just showed you, all terrific functionality, making the projects visible. We have data for decisions now because we have all the projects in one place. We can build a simple framework, and we did, and we have broad usage. The cons is the UX is intimidating and not very intuitive. The customization challenges are difficult. But again, you can create something simple. It's just not pretty. Then there's the extra. You can't hide what you're not using. And then there's a lot of system generated message, a lot of noise and emails that the system likes to create. And that's one of the downsides. We actually keep that in mind when we add new stuff to see how many messages it might generate. And then effort reporting, this is something you can reach out to me separately on. We did build that and we can do it. It's just not used very effectively right now. We're piloting with a few teams um, and trying to make some progress there. And that's it.
Jeremy, can
Yes.
I jump in and point to you that there's a question in chat in
Okay.
that do you give all of your managers analytic access?
Yes, everyone in IT has the access to put projects into TDX and update projects in TDX. So again, we went with the strategy of let's have too many people using it and then see what the downside of that is. And so far, there is no downside to having a lot of projects and a lot of people with the ability to use it. In fact, the executives are encouraging their staffs to use it more because they like being able to see all the work that's going on in the team's dynamics reports and dashboards that we've created.
And there's a second question. Jeremy, for the TDS PM tools that you are using, do you pay for an extra type of product license on top of the base TDX? Parenthesis, I know that each user needs a license versus clients who make project requests.
Oh, I don't know the answer to that, Andrea. I know I don't think we have extra licenses for people to use the PPM tool any greater than the ticketing license. That's what I'd say is that anyone who can do a ticket seems to be able to put a project request in and manage a project in PPM. But I don't know if we pay extra for the PPM license.
Jeremy, can I ask a quick question? So do you give everyone or all your managers analysis access then?
All the managers have access to analysis, not all the staff.
Okay, because that limits their ability to actually see analysis reports.
Which is to answer the next question there on the SharePoint dashboard. That's why we have SharePoint as a hub for the reports. That's available to everybody, whereas the analysis tab is not. And it's just a place to make it simple.
Okay.
Again, I always say we're hiding our reporting in plain sight because people still reach out and say, can you tell me about this? And then I have to share my screen with them and say, yeah, you can just go to this page right here and it'll show you everything you need to see.
So you export your report into SharePoint.
Yeah, it's a pretty easy thing to do there when you set up the report. I showed you I quickly clicked on the edit the report, and you can use that, and then it'll give you a URL, and you just use that URL in SharePoint.
Oh, okay. Interesting. And then those people in the SharePoint do not need analysis access.
Correct.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
analysis is limited for licensing for our staff to just managers and above, and then regular staff can look at the SharePoint site.
Yeah, I didn't realize that the URL could be more public, but thanks. Helpful.
All righty. Well, thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you.
So I guess I will share my screen now. So while I'm doing this, it occurs to me that both my former supervisor and current supervisor, as well as the TDX admin, are on this call. So I'm feeling the stakes are high here for me. I better get this right. So just a quick PowerPoint. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. This is just to guide me. Just going to be talking about common failure modes, or what I call stinking thinking as it relates to team dynamics. Just review what I'm going to cover. It's going to be the same line as where Jeremy went. Talk a little bit about the K-State workflow because I do feel I need to introduce how projects come into team dynamics, but I won't be going through the entire governance workflow. And then where I really want to spend my time is the daily and weekly things I do in team dynamics, how I use the tool to make my job easier, efficient, at least make sure I'm capturing what I need to capture. So there's that. Thoughts and things I hear often about team dynamics, and I guess this is true of any project management tool, but particularly as we only update this before the steering committee or it's just for leadership dashboards. And I think I can take both these comments together. I find it's so much more helpful if you're in there, and it's what Jeremy covered this, if you're in there giving your updates as the work is getting done, or you're taking the time to go into team dynamics and interact with the tools and use those tools to communicate what the status is of things. And therefore, you're not cramming all at the last minute all this information just to make sure that a dashboard is populated and is appearing correctly before a steering committee. The next two could probably also be taken together. We don't use that feature in Team Dynamics because fill in the blank or another PPM tool does this better. And those statements are probably true on themselves, but I will say you could lose sleep looking for the perfect project management tool, and I have not found one out there. So they all have their pluses and minuses. So I tend to embrace and try to, since it sounds a little woo-woo, try to find peace with the tool that the organization is using. And I've been using Team Dynamics for a long time, and it just seems to doesn't check off all the boxes, but it's a good number of them checked. So that. Again, be talking about practical workflow and things that I check. These two X's are not for the audience. It's to remind me to not get into the weeds as to how I configured something in front of y'all, and to also not get into the weeds or get broader about the governance model. We have plenty of discussions about that in the community group, and I think we have one coming up soon. So there's that. Our workflow at a very high level in terms of how projects come in is similar to, I think, what most university PMOs do. But what I'm trying to show here with this diagram is, how we use Team Dynamics to process that. So a very simplified version here is the project request is submitted as a service ticket on the service side of Team Dynamics. And it gets reviewed by a PMO analyst, usually a business analyst. They do all the vetting, the triaging, if you will, to determine if this is indeed a project or if this is more suitable for a service ticket. And then it's reviewed and prioritized. And at that point, it's assigned to a PM. And if it's assigned to me, because my role at K-State is a project manager, then it magically pops onto my Team Dynamics project list. And then I start doing the things that a project manager does with the project. So there's that piece. So I'm going to be talking a bit about the project module tab. So let's go in there. And I think a lot of this is duplicate. So what I would take away from this is if I think Jeremy's already covered it, I'll just mention that I do it the same way that Jeremy does. And then you'll have a data point that you saw two universities use Team Dynamics the same way. If there's any differences, then hopefully that'll inform you as well. But this is the inside of my project management screen, so you can see the projects that I'm assigned to. And I spend, first thing in the morning, I have Team Dynamics, I log into it, and I'm going back and forth between these projects quite a bit. The other thing I wanted to show, if you pardon me for toggling back and forth to keep me on track, projects and project plans. So when I get a project, the first place I go on any project is, I need to pick a good one here. I think I'll do it here. The first thing I do is I'll come straight away to the resources and add all the resources I need. Jeremy talked about the alternate manager. One of the things I do, and I didn't catch if he did this, but if there's a resource team, well, there always is a resource team lead because I go to the resource team lead and ask, as we vet these projects, okay, who's going to help us with integrations? Who's going to help us with SSO and IDM integrations? In this particular project, this is Laserfish, so we're working with our IT digital content team. And so I would go to that manager and say, who are the resources that are going to work with us on that project? And in addition to adding those resources, I will add the manager almost without exception, and then give them alternate manager access. And I do that because when we get to our plans, we will create several plans for a project, particularly if it gets complicated. So this case, a better illustration of this one, because I happen to check one that is very specific to Laserfish. So let me back out, come back into uh, let me do this one. So here you'll see I've got a specific card wall plan for the IDM and SSO tasks. And when the integrations start to get finalized on this project, because we just launched this one, then I'll create another card wall to contain the integrations tasks. And I do that because if you're familiar with card walls, they have those lanes across the horizontal there, and cards move left to right. And each of those teams, the IDM SSO team, has settled on a different list of lanes than the integration team has, or the digital content team. So it's to my advantage and to the benefit of the project team to have as many card walls as I do resource teams. And it does get a little challenging to track, but it helps those teams work the task that's been assigned to them in the framework that they're used to doing that. For a large project such as this one, we've got a waterfall that has all the steps, kind of a big picture, and this one happens to have almost 200 steps here that outlines all the different things that needs to happen. So you can see as we've just started this project, I've gotten to check 2 things off, hence these 2 green 100%. So that's what I'm doing there. So when I said I started the project, the first thing I do is add the resources. The next thing I do is I come in here and add the stakeholders. And the same thing Jeremy said, I will add stakeholders so that when I send out the updates, the stakeholders, the sponsors, the IT executives are getting the reports for the projects that they're interested in. One thing to know about K-State is we classify projects into 2 different categories. We classify them as large enterprise, or at least the ones that I touch, large enterprise, and then small unit. That is significant because we also meet every Wednesday morning in this large IT collaborative meeting, and we alternate those Wednesdays. So this Wednesday was large unit project update. Next Wednesday will be, I did that backwards. This Wednesday is large enterprise project updates. Next Wednesday will be small unit level or department level projects. And so I let that set the cadence for my updates. So talking about my personal workflows here, yesterday evening, I went through and did updates for all the large unit projects. And I did that the same way Jeremy demonstrated as I come in here to the update tab. We happen to have 2 templates that we've created, a simple update template, and I'll activate both of these. So this one is nothing more than just activities completed by since the last report, activities completed by the next report. And you notice we're not time specific, just in case we skip a beat on one of the IT collab meetings and we don't meet. It gives me a little bit of flexibility to say, hey, yes, the last time I talked to you, we completed these things. Next time I talk, I hope that our team has completed these things and then we outline any risks. There is a more complicated report that I don't use a lot, but have used from time to time. We just itemize, highlight like the top 3 things, list the milestones in a bullet format, and then list any risks and their impacts to the schedule, the scope, or the costs. And of course, every update then sits as a feed, as a record in the feed. And so over time, I will build a history of the updates I've made. And this is something we started recently in the last, I want to say, year. We used to just send updates out the old-fashioned way via email, but I have found that Team Dynamics makes it easier by that contact button on the update screen. And plus, I have a record. I can go to one spot in Team Dynamics and see everything I've said about that project. Moving back to my presentation, make sure I'm on track. Task updates in the feed. So again, very pragmatic about workflows. typically when I take notes in a meeting, and I won't demo this on screen, I've got a Word document where each task is a major bullet and all the activity and the discussions around that task is documented as a sub bullet. Recently with the project team, we've just found value in coming directly to the cards or the tasks and just commenting in the feed area right here. And so you'll see lots of updates. And if I really wanted to use the word lots, I probably should have clicked on a card that was further down the card wall. So let's look for something that has lots of updates. I think you guys get the idea. So here's the feed. And these are all the things that people have said are documented about this particular task, which happens to be a form that we're migrating into Laserfish. It's got a consistent record so people can come here, see what's going on. If they needed to find more about it, they can always hit Control F, look for the keywords that they would normally look for using that Word document, but it's sitting here inside the card. What else did I say I was going to cover? Risk and issues. So yes, I do use the risk and issues. This is the risk register, and I've got one risk documented here, and Jeremy showed us how those risks are entered just by clicking new. So because I've indicated that it's a medium probability and high impact, it's popping it right here in the red zone. And I've got another project here. Hopefully where did it go? There it is. You can see there's a risk register that's got 2 critical risks documented. Also use the issues. This particular project had an issue here. So I'll document if it's an issue or concern. In this particular case, this project was composed of several modules. And when we went live with this one module called Dimensions, there was a gink up. I'm going to use a technical word, a gink up with open URLs. And so we documented that as a post-production issue and got it resolved and tracked it inside this issues area. I will say if I was going to ding Team Dynamics for one thing, they do a good job of tracking issues. They've got that interface there. Yes, it's kind of clicky, but it gets the job done. It does it well with risks and with tracking risks, but they've also got the risk matrix. So kudos to them on that. But if you're really going to complete the RAID system, then there's no place to track decisions. So the only way I've been able to track decisions on the daily is I'll use that in the feed during my updates. So I'll gather decisions that I've tracked in meeting notes, and I'll pull them into Team Dynamics during my biweekly updates and note them here in this very highly technical way of capitalizing the word decision and then noting what that decision was. So, and to me, it seems like it would be pretty easy to use, the same table format, the same interface, whoopsies, that you use to track issues in REST to create a decision log. So there's that. Anything else I want to talk about? Analysis model. Go ahead.
Ed, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Before you move on, you have 2 questions in chat. The first
Sure.
question is about the content of your feed. Is it a chat feed or is it something that you cut and copy and paste from an email, or is it something else?
So that feed, the feature of the feed is that it is a log of everything that's been said about a project, with the exception of the feed that I showed you on the card wall. They doesn't pop on this feed. So if I do an update, I'm not copying things. Well, I could, but there's an important email that came in that I really wanted to capture. I could copy and paste it in here. I wouldn't necessarily hit the contacts button and blast the entire team and say, hey, Ed just got an email, but I could put it in there. I mainly use the feed though for capturing my biweekly updates. The cadence I happen to use is every other week, which is I'm I'm flexing myself to fit into that IT collab beating model that I discussed earlier. So I'm just literally selecting that template and entering in the updates that I need to enter. Did that answer the question?
Emma,
That answers
can
it totally. Thank you very much, Ed.
Oh, cool. You said
the
there
next
were, go
the
ahead.
next question is from Dewey. She's asking, does the developer team use the card drawer, or is it just the managers that use the card drawer?
That depends on the project team composition. I'll just say it here, the Laserfish project team, I'm working with the digital content team. They're in that card wall making those updates all the time. In fact, it helps them maintain their sanity when they do. So they're moving cards from left to right. They're updating the tasks that are assigned to them with any updates that they have. When we have these working sessions for that particular Laserfish project, and so we are meeting like an hour and a half with a department. Sometimes we'll pull up the card in the meeting and look at what the last update was and talk about what we need to do to move that task along the card wall. So that team, yes, project manager and technical resources and even the functional project team members are updating the card wall. I'm on other projects where they rely on the project manager to make that update. I welcome them to update, but it just in order to make sure that the project stays current so that the dashboard that project appears on doesn't have something that's out of balance, like the percent is off or the project's been stale for a while. In order to keep those things from happening, I'll go in there and make those updates or gently remind the resource manager to go in and help me make some updates. So there's that.
There's one more question in chat.
Sure.
I'm sorry. Jason is asking, where do you track assumptions?
Oh
And
my goodness,
Jason,
assumptions. So what I didn't discuss is so when I talked about that workflow on this slide, so once I start managing this project, the first thing when it pops onto my Team Dynamics dashboard, if you will, one of the first activities we do is we start the process of drafting the project charter. And that charter is drafted outside of Team Dynamics in Microsoft Word. And the project team collaboration space that we use happens to be Microsoft Teams. So that project charter goes into a project docs folder, project documents folder inside Microsoft Teams, and we for that particular project. So every project that gets spun up, if the sponsor hasn't created the team space, I will create the team space. Set up typical folders that I set up the same folders every time. I'll have an approvals folder, communications folder, a project documents folder, a data elements folder, a functional specs folder. I think that's it. And in that project documents folder, I put a copy of the project charter. I don't put it into Team Dynamics. I don't know why I don't do that now that I've said that out loud. So good question. Something for me to think about. I will say this, the other thing, I want to join Jeremy on this, on constructively providing feedback about Team Dynamics, I'll say it that way, is this briefcase feature here. So every project has a briefcase. I'll pick on, let me do this one. Let's go back here. There it is. I keep pausing to find my Laserfish project because it starts with enterprise. Personal minor complaint is when you're an enterprise project manager and all your projects start with enterprise and they're all under alphabetized by E, and that's been kind of a challenge this semester. Same thing with any sunset projects, always starting with S. But I will grow through that experience. So this is the briefcase. And you can put documents here, like you could put the project charter here, but it, it is not a SharePoint space. Like you click on this, and if you want to look at it, you got to download it. If you make edits to it, you've got to take it offline, download it, and then make those edits, and then upload it again. You can connect this to Teams. We haven't done that. If you've connected your Team Dynamics to Microsoft Teams, these files now become links. They're nothing more than pointers to the team space. And I've used that method at another institution. And I'm going to say that's pretty cool. I'm not going to call it the ed category of being slick, but it is pretty cool. You click that link, fires up the SharePoint, the document kind of in that team SharePoint space. You make your edits, you close it, and you don't have to worry about re-uploading it in Team Dynamics. I think I went down a track there. I hope I answered that question. It was about how do you document assumptions? And so the assumptions are documented in the charter, along with the initial concerns and issues for the project.
Makes sense. Thanks, Ed.
Yeah. See, I went down a rabbit hole. Sorry about that. Allowed me to cover some additional comments. So going back to my slide here, analysis tab, update how, present complete. Yeah, so when I do my status updates here, I think Jeremy covered this as well. I go through and I update the percent. I make sure that that manual percent entry agrees with the automated percent entry. And if it doesn't by a significant margin, I don't know, maybe 10% off, I'll be prepared to justify why that's the case. And then I'll also make sure the health is accurate. At K-State, our health matrix, if you will, is if any one of the project iron triangle pieces is off. So if you're off by scope or off by time or off by cost, then you go yellow. If you're off by 2 or more of those, then you go red. So that's how we handle that. And I think that takes me to the end, and it's 4 minutes away from 1. So even if I'm not done, I need to stop, but I will offer the same offer that Jeremy did. If anyone wants to dive deeper, or you saw something and want to know how we did that, more than happy to dive deeper into how I configured a dashboard or a chart or something like that. You can definitely schedule a one-off.
This is great, Ed. We have 2 questions. Maybe we can get through those questions quickly before we need to hop out. With so many people updating tickets, how do you keep data consistency in how things are reported?
So many people updating tickets. So with so many people updating cards, it's really not as many as you'd think it would be.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
it
wait, let
usually
me
stops.
just ask a question. This is Julie.
Hey,
So,
Julie.
yeah, I was under the impression that it wasn't just cards that people were updating, but that they were updating projects or project requests. Is that not true?
What they're submitting project requests.
Yeah, but
And
they're not updating projects or anything like that.
no, the project manager is the only one doing the biweekly project updates. And that process of those biweekly updates is relatively new. If you were to ask everyone assigned to a project, hey, are you updating it as often as Ed is? The answer would be no. But because we haven't socialized it yet, not because they're not doing the job, but the templates were created in Team Dynamics. We've demoed those. We're soon to start a process to say, hey, we really encourage everyone to start sending biweekly updates. And that's why we created some simple update templates for you to use. But again, short answer to your question is that's only the project manager that does that. And the next one is, what would you do differently if you were doing this again? Wow. There's so many ways I want to answer that question. What would I do differently if I was doing this again? Are you referring to something specific?
Hi, it's Emma Jane from the University of Wyoming. No, well, nothing
Hey, Emma.
specific, but I just wondered if there was something that would come to the top of your mind that you would say, holy cow, we would definitely do blah, 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 I would be super curious to hear what that would be, but no, not specific.
Okay. Well, if we could do it again, I would have definitely flipped that switch on the team dynamics, on the Teams integration. But yes, I would explore that and see if we could make that briefcase a little bit more usable for people.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I just want to jump in really quickly and say thank you to both Ed and to Jeremy for your wonderful demonstration and discussion about how you use TDX. I really appreciate the time that you took to prepare for this and share your knowledge with the PMCG community. This is fantastic.
Yeah. Excellent. Keep the conversations going out there in the community group. I can quickly switch over to the slide. We're running out of time, but we do have a closure slide. I think it just talks about next meetings. So the next one in April, I'm going from memory, is using data to tell your story. So looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And already said what's on the slide, so I'm not going to share the screen because I was too busy trying to find the share button again. Alrighty, folks. Good to see everybody.